And welcome back to the Red and Gold Zone. It is time for my favorite segment, our keys to the game. And as always, we are joined by our Red and Gold Zone insider, Grant Cohn. Grant, we are heading into the bye week, so we have a lot to digest. I guess first and foremost, what's just your biggest surprise with this team as we get a week off to really absorb and think about what's transpired over the year?
Maybe the fact that they're not dead yet, that they're still alive despite the fact that they've lost like everyone from their team. They've had like 19 guys go on IR, plus all the COVID guys they get week by week. The fact that they're still alive is quite impressive. And then also the fact that their defense ranks top 5 in the NFL without Nick Bosa, D Ford, and Richard Sherman. A lot of people looked at this unit as being kind of propped up by those three in particular, and that the defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, was a bit of a fraud who was dependent on top-end talent. Well, that's not the case. They have a top 5 defense, and I don't know if they have any bona fide Pro Bowlers on it besides Fred Warner. It's remarkable.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Now, what, or I should say, who has been your biggest disappointment in the first half of the season?
Single out Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. I mean, he's a first-round pick, and his signature moment every week is someone throwing him on his back. And you see it on television. Oh, there's Mike McGlinchey's legs over his head. Drink. So, yeah, I mean, him, but it's not just him. It's the whole offensive line. It's the weakest position group on the team. It's the reason Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt. It's the reason that the season hasn't gone according to plan other than all the injuries. Mike McGlinchey isn't good enough. The interior isn't good enough. They got to overhaul that whole thing before they even think about bringing in a new quarterback.
Right. Now, you kind of answered this question in your first response. Do you think this Niners team can still make the playoffs? I know mathematically, yes, of course they can. 2 games back and still, about 6 games left. But realistically, do you think it's feasible?
You said this 49ers team. There is no this 49ers team. It's a week-by-week proposition, which depending on who's healthy and who doesn't have COVID-19. So theoretically, Raheem Mostert, Deebo Samuel come back. I don't know how effective they'll be against the Rams, but when those two are at full strength, they carry the offense. They're the MVPs of the offense. Right now, the Niners have no run game. If they could add Raheem Mostert and Deebo Samuel, which is their run game, to that defense, which ranks top 5, you can compete with anybody. But will that happen? How many more people will go on the COVID-19 list before Deebo Samuel comes back? It's impossible to say. They really do have to go 5-1 down the stretch. And I recently made a bet with my dad that they would go 5-1. So this is the path. They got to beat the Rams. They got to beat the Bills. They got to beat Washington. They got to beat Dallas. They can afford one loss to Arizona. Then they got to beat Seattle. Funny things happen, man. Other teams have bad luck too. It's a weird year, but yeah, it's not looking good, Jason.
Right. And Seattle, they're kind of downtrending. The Rams and the Cardinals, they're both trending up. Now, I promise you I'll ask you this question probably every week until the season is over. And Kyle Shanahan was kind of asked a similar question earlier this week. And the fact that he's being asked this shows that people are wondering. But he said earlier in the week that Jimmy Garoppolo will be a starting quarterback in 2021. Do you think he was telling the truth?
No, absolutely not. He's saying what he has to say because I'm sure the Niners would like to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They prefer to trade him than cut him. And before this season started, from what I heard, the Patriots offered the Niners a first-round pick and they turned him down. So I don't think the Niners can get a first for Jimmy Garoppolo now. Could they get anything for him with that contract he has? I imagine it's kind of up to Kyle to boost his trade value a little bit, play him at the end of the year, and give him a reason to come back and play because the Niners need him if they're going to make the playoffs. All of those things factor into it. I think they are going to trade him at the end of the year, maybe back to New England, but you can't say that now. You got to say he's our guy until he isn't.
Now, next week, the Niners will take on the Rams. The Niners got a primetime win against the Rams earlier this year. What are the odds that they can sweep this team?
50-50. I mean, you know the defense is going to show up. It's going to be rested. It's going to play hard. It's going to have a great game plan. And I've seen Robert Saleh outcoach Sean McVay multiple times. Robert Saleh is just having an A-plus season. The offense, though, I mean, what's the run game going to look like? What's the offensive line going to look like? How's Nick Mullins going to play? It's really hard to expect anything from this offense, but I'm picking the Niners to win. I'm figuring Brandon Ayuk is just going to continue to go crazy. He's really good. He kind of reminds me of Jerry Rice, dare I say. He's just really clean and crisp. I like that kid. We'll see. I'm picking the Niners.
I saw that Jerry Rice tweet earlier this week. Hey, bold, but that's why we love you. Now, before I let you go, Grant, what's your outlook of the NFC West right now? Like I said, the Cardinals, they're trending up, and the Seahawks, they're trending down. Russell Wilson went from MVP favorite to looking pretty regular over the past week. And you have the Rams always. What's just your outlook of this division right now?
It's the Cardinals division. That's the way I look at it. You got 3 teams in the Niners, Rams, and Seahawks that pay big money to quarterbacks. You got 1 team in Arizona that doesn't spend about $5-6 million, and he's the best quarterback of all of them, or just as good. And you can't compete with a team like that. They're just way too good. And what we've seen with Seattle is any team that has a cornerback good enough to match up with DK Metcalf can beat them. They got no defense, no offensive line, no run game. It's a very one-dimensional attack. It's Arizona's division. It's going to be for a while unless the Niners get their own Kyler Murray next year, who's making $4 or $5 million. Could happen.
All right, so there you have it, the keys to the game. To recap, Jimmy G's not going to be here next year. Mike McGlinchey's feet is always over his head on Sundays. That's why we have Grant Cohn on the show. It was great talking to you, Grant, and that is our keys to the game.